Hi, everybody, and welcome to Ellensburg, Washington, USA. Here's a toast to you for joining us today. I'm on campus. This is Central Washington University. This is my office, and we are starting school tomorrow. And I wanted to do a recorded video. This is not a live stream, but a recorded video, trying this out. And the goal is to have this fast-paced and show you a number of things that I have been able to learn on my own and with many people's help over the last few weeks to few months. And this is all in the name of getting ready for this coming winter, where I will have 26 brand new live streams involving the Ice Age floods and J Harlen Bretz. Okay, I've got 3 cameras today. This is home base. This is the desktop over here. And I also have the circle cam where I have a document camera ready to go. So there are two things that I would like to do mainly with you today. The first is to share with you a new color scheme that I have developed over the last few weeks. And if you've seen some recent videos, you're already hip to this a little bit. And the other thing is I want to do more asking of many of you for some help. If you have the interest, if you have the time, if you have the skills necessary, I'm starting to run out of time. I'm trying to get ready for this winter. The days are getting shorter. The weather's starting to turn. And I'm not going to have enough time to get out to all these places that I was hoping to get to. So I might lean on a few of you for some more help. No commitment necessary, just, and this is the main way that I can thank people, because there's so many emails I cannot reply to each one of them. So a sincere, heartfelt thank you to you if you emailed me in the last couple of months with some detail, especially as I lobbed out a few questions. Okay, well, let's get to that first. So if I go to the document camera, if I go to the website, what is this? Desktop, right. I'm still practicing with this stuff. So this is what nickzentner.com looks like, at least at the moment. And if you click on floods in the upper right-hand corner, you get to some documents. And this list will continue to grow. Perhaps it's been a while since you've been to this place. And if we click on this, it's J Harlen Bretz's first paper on the channeled scablands of eastern Washington. And he's got an old map in here. And these are Bretz in his own words. This is 1923A, as it's known in the geology circles. And then, if you are unaware, thanks to the help of Ryan from Springfield, Illinois, Ryan drove up to the University of Chicago. And between Ryan in Springfield and Brian in Portland, Oregon, we now have these amazing original scans of Bretz's field notes. So this is Bretz typing up his notes at the end of a field season. And so in addition to the published papers, which are accessible online, these typed notes of J Harlen Bretz, each summer in the 1920s, more or less, this stuff has not been available to pretty much everybody until now. That's not new, however. I've made that announcement and I've shared these things before. What is new is a guy named Joel in Sacramento, a viewer, who said, you know what? I'm going to go summer by summer. I am going to make a map, says Joel in Sacramento, and I'm going to follow Bretz. And if I skip down to Joel's legend, he has the walking route where Bretz and his 3 students in the summer of 1922 went, the rail that he jumped on at a particular place, and Joel just kind of worked this out in sequence. So day 1, day 2, day 3, and so on. So the red dashes are where Bretz is walking. I mean, look at this. They're covering a lot of ground, including coming down the entire Moses Coulee in the summer of 1922. More to come on this. Come on, boy. more to come on this. We're just getting started. It sounds like Joel is working on the next summer, and Glenn in Spokane is doing something different. He's going through Bretz's notes, and he's using Google Earth and plotting individual locations with little kernels of Bretz's notes. And Glenn in Spokane is a photographer, so he's going to start putting little thumbnails of some of these places. And so we're just getting started between these guys and some of the rest of you who will be in the spirit of this as well. So by itself, it's just fun to see the skill from many of you viewers. But in some cases, I will be sharing what these folks are doing with all of you. So I'm thanking and I'm also cluing you in. So yes, if you want to look carefully at Joel's first map from the summer of 1922, it's one of the documents that I have listed for you. Thanks to, I got to practice getting back to home base. So many of you helped by email with railroad history. I mean, there's a lot of you who love railroad history. I got way more than I needed, but thanks. I'm not saying too many emails. It was great. And I basically got to the point where I understand then where the Great Northern Line is, where the main line is, where the Northern Pacific is, where the Milwaukee Road is, the dates that they got completed, and it jives well with certain key places in time between 1890 and 1930. And that will come this winter, but thanks to many of you for that. I also asked to see if anybody could figure out where Bretz lived in Seattle when he was a high school teacher. I got plenty of sleuthing there. Again, some of you were like, this took me like 4 minutes. You could have easily done this. Nobody said it that way, but they basically said it didn't take me long to find this. And I always have my dad in the back of my head where if he was around and he saw what I was doing here, my dad probably would say, why are you asking other people to do your work? You're supposed to be doing all this. And he's right, but I don't know. It's fun to have a community of people working together. What can I say? I just happen to be the one in front of the camera, so it does seem like I'm hogging everybody's hard work, but I hope you don't feel or hear it that way or feel it that way. Where was I? So I have a short list of wish list things. So thanks to those that helped me figure out where Bretz and his young wife were living as renters when Bretz was a high school teacher in Seattle. But now I'm getting greedy, and I want to know, where did Bretz build his house when he finished his PhD at the University of Chicago and came back to Seattle? His first full-time professor job at the University of Washington. He arrived in the fall of 1913, J Harlen Bretz. And he built his home somewhere near the University of Washington, I think, over the winter of 1913 into 1914. Or maybe the house was completely built by Bretz and family members and maybe a couple of friends. Maybe it was totally built in the first few months of 1914. And you're like, oh, well, you think that house still exists? Well, one of you found this article, desktop. And it's also available for you to read. New Bungalow House by Bretz. That's my title. So here is September. So September of 1914. So Bretz has already left. He only lasted 1 year at the University of Washington. He didn't get along with his colleagues. There's a story there. We'll save it for this winter. But this is the Bungalow magazine, and this is an article on this beautiful new bungalow home, this arts and crafts home that Bretz built by hand in a quiet, restful little wooded tract of Seattle, well out from the clamor and confusion of the city's heart, yet not too far from the University of Washington, where its owner, Bretz, is wont to enlighten Washington's youth in mysteries of geology. There was no address given for this thing, and you're going to have to turn your head on its side This is the only photo that I have of this house. Is there any way somebody could figure out if this house still stands? This is not a make or break thing for this winter, but I would love to be able to drive by this house that Bretz built and was planning to live his whole life in. But it turns out he only lived there a few months before he and the baby and his wife went to Chicago. Okay, so that's one item on my wish list. Let me keep going fast-paced with the wish list, and then I'll go to my color scheme, which is kind of more just show and tell of what I did on my summer vacation. Vacation, right. That was Daryl in Puyallup who found that bungalow article. Thank you, Daryl. All through the Bretz notes, here's a wish list for everybody. All through the Bretz notes, occasionally he refers to a quadrangle, which is a brand new published USGS topographic map with actual contour lines and elevations, and this is what the valley looks like and everything else. I don't know the dates of publication of these key topographic maps. And I'll give you the context for this. And again, this will take some of you like 4 minutes probably. Bretz is in Drumheller channels. And I don't think he has a topographic map base. But later in his notes, a few years later, he says, well, yeah, I've got the Corfu quadrangle, and I'm plotting my geology onto the Corfu topographic map base. In other words, the USGS mapping people were out a summer ahead of Bretz, or 5 summers ahead of Bretz, or 10 summers ahead of Bretz. And I think truly that some of the routes that Joel is going to be able to draw out for us, and Glenn, I think it's in part, I'm guessing now, I'm guessing Bretz's route sometimes is influenced by a new topo map that just came out by the USGS. So my question is, can somebody find the list of USGS topographic quadrangles in eastern Washington by year? Like the most famous quad, I'll just call it a quad. You know what I mean? It's a topographic map. It's got no geology on it. It's just where the hills and valleys are, and it's something that's going to be useful to Bretz. Western Washington, too. The most famous quad is the Quincy Quad. And I think that's published in 1910, and Bretz sees that new quadrangle in the University of Washington's library as a high school teacher, as a renter, and he's like, what the hell is this? There has to be a story here. By the way, if that's 1910, and Bretz doesn't have his PhD yet, and he's still a high school teacher in Seattle, the Milwaukee Road exists. It's brand new. Why doesn't Bretz immediately in March of 1911, before he goes back to Chicago, why doesn't he get on the train and come across the Cascades and go see the Quincy? Did he? You see how some of this stuff works together and how you and I are kind of building this kind of narrative together? And you're like, this has been done a million times. I've been to some lectures by Bretz on Bretz and all the Bretz's work. I know you have. But there's certain angles to this story that, to me, are not put together yet. And we're just kind of coming into a couple of these blind spots in the story and putting things together. Or if they've already been put together, I just haven't seen it yet. But it's detective work that's kind of fun. U.S. quads by year. Where did Thomas Large live? Thomas Large was a well-known, I think even beloved, high school teacher at Lewis and Clark High School. I think Thomas Large arrived in Spokane around 1920, and he lived the rest of his life in Spokane. Did Thomas Large live close to the Pantops train station? Pantops. Many of you helped me figure out where Pantop Station was. And Did Bretz get off the train there to start his 1922 journal because there was something interesting geological there? Or did Bretz not have a car, and did he get off Pantops because Thomas Large lived up the street? He walked to Large's house, or Large met him at the station, and then loaned his car to him for a few days. Okay. That's maybe the end of my little wish list for today. Let's transition to some show and tell. I probably should have started with this because those that aren't into the detective stuff are maybe not that impressed with what's going on. Desktop boy. Okay, so plenty for you to check out. And this list continues to grow as I decide what to put on here. But I have a ways to go. This list is going to be very long by the time we're done this winter. And right now, I hope it's clear to you, I'm just looking for narratives. I'm basically trying to figure out how to lay out the alphabet. And I'm all over the place. I'm all over the place visually. I'm all over the place temporally. I'm all over the place with different people that are potentially part of the story. So if you have not been keeping up with the YouTube channel, it's been summer. I understand you're busy. You don't have time to watch all these things. But I just posted this yesterday, and this gives you a sense of where I've been lately. Looking for evidence of older glaciations. I've also been reposting videos that I did more than 10 years ago, but it does set up what we're doing here. So these are the recorded videos that I've done with various people over the last few months. And then I've done some live streams, but it's been less devoted to the Ice Age floods and more involving a Baja, BC conference I was at, and also just kind of testing some of the live stuff, which I'm not doing this. This is not live. If you're furiously looking for the live chat, this is just me talking into my camera here in the office. Okay, what was I going to do? Right, okay. So I've been reading a lot. It's been very enjoyable. Trevor Contreras at Washington Geological Survey found this old copy of the Bretz PhD in 1913, and so I've been able to make a good copy of this, which I will post on my site at some point. But the original Puget Lowland work by Bretz got me real interested in going on over there. Go to home base. Now, I got to talk to myself, Big moment. I was going to save it till this winter. I want to do it right now. If you're a veteran of these programs, going back a few years, like 3 years, 2020, I was launching the exotic terrains A to Z because I knew hardly anything about exotic terrains. 3 years ago, not that long ago. And I made the decision, and I was looking right into the camera, possibly in session A, saying something like this: look, I've gone to the North Cascades in Washington a number of times over the years. I don't get it. I'm confused. There's too much going on in the North Cascades. I don't understand the rocks that I'm looking at. I don't understand where I'm missing a bunch of rocks that would really help me with the story. This 3 years ago. And so I made, at some point, a rather bold declaration. To understand the North Cascades, I need to leave the North Cascades. Probably wasn't that dramatic about it. But I left. And for me to start to make sense of the exotic terrains in North Cascades, I needed to go up to southern British Columbia, where there was an incredible amount of exposure of big exotic terrains. I needed to learn my stuff up there, chapter by chapter by chapter. Quinellia, Cache Creek, Stickinia, all the colors, Dodger Blue, Royal Blue, Grello, Rangelia, Orange. And it's only after I did that BC set of letters in the alphabet that I then returned to the North Cascades and it started to make some sense. Well, can you anticipate what I'm about to say right now with the Ice Age floods? This is a recent decision. September 1st, 2.5 weeks ago, I decided I needed to leave Eastern Washington. If I really wanted to understand what Bretz was talking about, with evidence of older ice and evidence of older Ice Age floods, at least temporarily, maybe for a long time, I needed to leave Eastern Washington. Because everybody says there's no old stuff in Eastern Washington. It's all young. It's all younger than 25,000 years old. Missoula floods. And so in the last week and a half, I have been reading the old work and the new work from glaciers in the Cascades and glaciers in Western Washington. And I'm just starting to learn about glaciers in Montana and glaciers in northern Idaho, with an eye for multiple generations of ice advance and potentially Ice Age floods associated with some of those distinctly different ice advances. So that's why I was over in Western Washington Sunday morning. It's Tuesday afternoon. But I had a beautiful time with a very smart person, Kathy Troost, and if you haven't seen that hour-long video yet, I recommend it. I think that's a particularly good one. And let me share with you the color scheme that I came up with, that I unveiled in front of Kathy and everybody, which is my latest attempt to try to keep track of these advances. Document camera. So these colors are wrong, but this is the map that got it started for me, that we have Spokane vintage ice, which is older than the Okanagan or the Wisconsin ice, according to Bretz. This is Bretz's map from 1928, and the red are the advances. Sorry, the red is the, on that map, Ice Age flood stuff. Okay, so what I did, can I get this down? This is maybe 4 days ago. I decided to go Western Washington, Central Washington, Eastern Washington, and the Rockies, and using red for the most recent ice advance and blue for Bretz's penultimate ice, according to him, Spokane ice, Spokane flood. I just tried to organize things by dates that we know. And in the left margin are marine isotope stages, worldwide, well-known times of global cool and potential times of glaciation worldwide. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? Bretz. So let's go kill him, boys. So I was up looking with Kathy at the Vashon Till, and that's how the video starts. And this is the actual piece of paper that I put in my pack for Sunday morning with Kathy. And if you watch that video, if you've already seen it, she has possession till high up in the trees. She has gorgeous exposure of Double Bluff glacial till, MIS6. And she's even got hints of some older stuff, some Gig Harbor gravels. We were very close to Gig Harbor and the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. Red, orange, blue, purple. This is my way to untangle. I like that phrase that Kathy used just off the top of her dome. I'm trying to untangle all this nomenclature. And I'm trying to use a very simple color scheme, and I'm trying to follow those colors then through the Cascades into Eastern Washington, hell, maybe even Montana. I don't know, maybe out to the Olympics. Are there 4 different colors out in the Olympics as well? You know what I'm talking about with the colors. Just this morning, I decided I'm going to do brown for reversed paleomag flood deposits. So I don't know, but I think that right now everything's been dumped into a purple grab bag that's older than MIS 6. But there appears to be quite a bit of this reversed paleomag flood stuff, or glacial deposits even, including the Bjornstad video I did, which turned out to be overlapping with the Sky Cooley video I did at the Marengo Cut. And then if you have a really great memory, I was using a little bit of green in Moses Cooley. If I truly got older than the Ice Age, and I got into these pre-glacial drainages. So to some, I suppose I might add another couple colors more if I continue to have fun breaking things out. But right now, you can see the dates here. Red between those two dates, orange between those two dates, blue between those two dates, purple between 300,000 and 240,000 years ago, and older than 780,000 years ago because of the paleomag for the brown. Okay, good. So to finish this video, I want to share what I've been able to do using the original Bretz stuff from 1913 in Western Washington. This old thing, which I found in my file cabinet 10 years ago and have used a lot. This is an old field guide from September of 1969 by the Friends of the Pleistocene Field Conference. This is probably one of the first that ever happened. And this is the work of Steve Porter from University of Washington. And so I have found better copies of these old maps involving alpine glaciers near Leavenworth, Washington, and near Ellensburg, Washington. And it's just continuing the thought that, is it a crazy question? Is it unreal? Okay, I'm going to do it this way. Look, these glaciers do not have a mind of their own, right? A glacier doesn't decide to form and flow and advance and get bigger just because it feels like it. These glaciers are responding to global climate. So is it crazy to assume that when we have a major ice sheet advance into Washington in North America, we have a similar big ice sheet advancing into New York State and advancing into Norway, or even points further south? This is a global thing, right? Even on that scale, these glaciers are in sync. And if we have an ice sheet coming down over northern Europe, can't we assume that there's some major alpine ice growth and advance down the valleys in Switzerland? I mean, if for sure that's wrong, then I'm barking up the wrong tree, but that can't be wrong, can it? And you're like, oh, hold on now, you know, there's different elevations and there's maritime influences. Yeah, okay, I guess, but like this is the entire planet we're talking about. How much of these glaciers around the world in sync, which is something I've already asked in video form a few months ago. But now I'm coming to just Pacific Northwest. Forget about the globe. I'm just asking about when we have a big ice sheet over Seattle, can't we assume that 300 miles to the east, there's a big ice sheet over there too? And in the mountains between western and eastern Washington? Forget about the Rockies. We can just think about ice sheets in eastern and western Washington. What's missing in eastern Washington is an ice sheet of MIS 4 age, apparently. And yes, this is brand new. This is brand new right now with you. It's brand new for my brain. As of last week, I had blue up to this point for Bretz's Spokane flood and Bretz's Spokane ice. Because in newspapers around the world, he was, not around the world, Bretz in the 1920s was regularly saying, yeah, my Spokane flood happened 130,000 years ago or 125,000 years ago. I have no idea where he came up with that date. But Bretz was saying that. And then in the last 50 years, people since Bretz have said, yeah, he was talking about that old flood, but that's up here. That was wrong. It's up here. I'm not sure of that, and I'm wondering if Kathy Troost has a beautiful case for a major ice advance in western Washington. Shouldn't we have a major case for an ice advance in eastern Washington? You're telling me there's nothing in eastern Washington, whether it's ice or floodwater, that's in those deposits? I don't believe it, or I have a hard time believing it. And yeah, maybe I want to get Spokane out of here, and maybe I want to start writing Spokane in orange. Maybe Bretz's Spokane flood is younger than 70,000 years. I don't know. This is where the fun is for me. It's totally fun. So I just redid these, just the Western Washington, because I enjoyed that Kathy thing so much. And so from her video, I don't know how much of this is new, but this is the current state of affairs in Western Washington, in the Puget Lowland. And there's 3 brown advances here, brown indicating older than 780,000 years ago, reversed paleomag. Okay, we could end it there. We could end it there, but I want to do one more thing. And now this is reusing some of my stuff. So I live in Ellensburg, and between Ellensburg, Washington, and Snoqualmie Pass is Interstate 90. And that distance, it takes an hour to drive between Ellensburg and Snoqualmie Pass. There's glacial till, and there's glacial outwash. And I have taught myself using mostly this, Stephen Porter's work, Richard Waite's work in the Yakima Valley, the Yakima River Valley upstream of Ellensburg. Well, I have a new twist using my color scheme. I have a new twist on the old handouts that I used 20 years ago. So these are glacial advances of Kittitas County. And if you're watching from France, this isn't going to make much sense. If you're watching from Kentucky, it's not going to make much sense. But those that know this area, I'll just give you a second to let this soak in. Here's Blewett Pass up here, US 97. Here's Interstate 90, Snoqualmie Pass, Easton, Cleellum. The Thorpe Fruit and Antique Barn is down here by the little town of Thorpe. Okay. So even this old map, which I always enjoyed, has a new twist because I'm using the colors that I just shared with you. And notice that there's 2, 4, 6, probably 8, but not sure, 4 advances. And if you know this stuff well, yeah, I think the Indian John advance and the Squaw Prairie advance, even though they're different ages, they both work with the MIS 6 time. So I'm coloring them blue. And here's the possession age, or stage 4, ice and outwash, Ronald and Bullfrog. So that's coming down where the ice is almost to Cleellum. It's down by Suncadia. And if you know these major lakes, which are reservoirs today, but they were originally dammed by moraines, those moraines are red, or Wisconsin, late Wisconsin time. The headline here, I know we're not talking about an ice sheet now. We're talking about an alpine glacier coming out of the Cascades. But the headline is, purple is the biggest ice. Porter's Lookout Mountain Ranch till. Hang on. Here's Porter saying Snoqualmie Pass is here. If you know Lookout Mountain, it's a major mountain just to the east of the town of Cle Elum. Ellensburg's right, Vindman's Bakery is right over here. You got to love it. And if you drive to the top of Lookout Mountain, first of all, it's private land up there, a bunch of private homes, beautiful homes, I understand. I'm not wealthy enough to get through the gate. So there's no till at the very top of Lookout. But there's till from Lookout Mountain Advance, which is the biggest, going all the way into Horse Canyon. The stage 6 ice, the stage 4 ice, the stage 2. So between the map view and the side view, there are 4 separate major ice advances. And my question is, if we got 4 major ice advances in Western Washington, and I could continue, but I guess I won't in this video, 4 major ice advances in the Cascades, not only in Ellensburg area, but in Leavenworth area. And I don't know, maybe there's going to be 4 really well-developed ice advances in Montana. Can you see how leaving Eastern Washington is going to potentially help me with Eastern Washington? This is fun. And if it was nothing but me doing this with my colored pencils every morning, that'd be enough. It's just satisfying to make some connections like this. Bonus points for doing this and then sharing these things as I kind of work them out. And it feels like I'm making progress, and I share them with you. More bonus points if then that gives you an idea, and you do something, and then you share it with me, and then I share it with everybody else. Even more bonus points if you send me some stuff, and you spend an hour on it, and I never send you a thank you note, and I never do share it with anybody, and you don't get mad. You go, well, I know he saw it. Maybe it didn't quite fit the narratives that he saw. That's the deal that we have. And there's no money. There's no subscription. I don't owe you a certain amount of videos every week. Everything here is just a back and forth, and it's a community, and I hope it continues to feel inspirational, really. I know that sounds cocky to say it that way, but I'm inspired by this. I'm inspired by us doing this together. And maybe some of you have the same feeling. How can I finish this one? If I go to the desktop, no, that's enough. That's enough. A toast to you, even though you're not live. Here's to you and your health. Thank you for all of your energy, whether it's leaving a comment on a video or sending me an email or talking about some of these videos, just spilled on my map, talking about some of these videos with your neighbor or whatever, and they start watching, and it's all just positive. It's all just positive. It's all just positive. That's enough. All right, let me show you. I'm not set to do this, but I brought the iPad in. Why not? I didn't even know how to use. We're done. Thank you for watching. Those that want to stick around. I just splurged and bought the KCTS 9 app. There's some new Nick on the Rocks coming this winter. what am I doing? Oh, I'm not ready on this one? Really? Where is it? Where's Google Earth? Hang on. Oh, God. There. So I'm not even set up to do this, but I think I can do it. Is this going to work? Yes, it is. God. So I didn't even get ready enough to put this on my desktop, but here's Glenn. Glenn in Spokane, by hand, typing in Bretz's notes hour by hour. Bretz is at Soap Lake, and come on. Made of old channel at south end of Spoke Lake, has a rocky knob several city blocks in extent. I mean, Glenn in Spokane has done that for every point of entry in Bretz's field notes from one summer. You only got 10 more summers to go, Glenn. I mean, good stuff. Thank you, everybody. I love you, and goodbye from Ellensburg, Washington, USA.